If you are a frequent listener to the podcast, you know that we have been sponsored by Fuji Sports for quite some time now. Whether you're looking for apparel, equipment, bags, or accessories, Fuji Sports has got it covered. Go to fujisports.com to see the latest selection of everything you need for your jiu-jitsu, judo, or MMA journey. That's fujisports.com. Let me take a minute to tell you about RŌL TV. If you're looking to take your jiu-jitsu to the next level and supplement your BJJ education, then RŌL TV has you covered. RŌLAcademy.tv has over 1,500 videos covering individual techniques, positions, and concepts, including seminars and workshops with top-level competitors and instructors like Chris Wojcik, Robert Drysdale, Aaron Hurley, Emily Kwok, and more. Whether you are a beginner or a more advanced student, RŌL TV is the online platform that can take your jiu-jitsu to the next level. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This helps us bring you the great guests and amazing content that you've come to expect. On this episode, Thomas and Matt Arroyo discuss how Matt's personal growth has affected his transition from fighter to academy owner and instructor, the importance of accepting change, Matt's time on The Ultimate Fighter, and more. Here's the RŌL Radio with the owner of Gracie Tampa South MMA, former Ultimate Fighter competitor, and UFC fighter, Matt Arroyo.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
Does everything look okay around me?
Everything is perfect, and we are live.
Okay.
Good morning. How are you? How are you, Matt?
Good. How's it going?
I'm doing very well. So just before we started, you said you have morning ritual. You have a routine.
Yes.
You do. Do you mind sharing what it is? Because this is, as many people as I talk to, as many people I know, not many people have it. And I have my own, and I'm curious what yours is. Do share.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my morning routine changed since I've had kids because now I got to get them to school, but spring break just ended. So I just took the kids to school around 7:20, 7:30. I get back. I take the dog for a 30-minute walk. So just walking for 30 minutes starts the ritual. I get back, I flip on the sauna. So I have a sauna and a cold plunge out there in my backyard. So I flip on the sauna. It takes about 45 minutes to get hot. And in that 45 minutes, I pray. I read my Bible verses. I have a couple other books that are like, a daily read. The Daily Dad, Daily Stoic, and two other ones. And so I read my passages in those. From there, and this whole time I'm laying in my bathing suit in the sunlight so I can get some sun on my skin. And from there, I go into the sauna at 215 degrees for 20 minutes. And then I go straight to the cold plunge at 47 degrees for 3 minutes. I get in there. So when I get out of there, I go on my rebounder. It's that little trampoline. And I go on there for 5 minutes to get the lymph. It's supposed to be really good for your body to lymph because your blood has a pump to pump blood, which is called a heart, through your body. But the lymph system does not have a pump to pump lymph through your body. So jumping up and down on a rebounder is proven to spread the lymph through your body. So I do that every day for 5 minutes. And then I breathe. I have these breathing exercises I do. If you follow Wim Hof, I just kind of hack his breathing stuff. And then a little visualization, closing my eyes and laying in the sun and just visualize, how I want my life to be, giving thanks and try to get in that grateful state. And then I start the day. Try to do that. I try to do that every day. I usually get it about 4 to 5 times a week, though.
Why is that so important to you?
I think starting the day with that, a lot of people just start the day and they go on their phone and then they have check their emails and then they go, through just whatever comes at them. They have no control. They just wake up and go. Or if I can spend that first hour and 30 minutes with myself and my creator, and just with my thoughts, and I just think I could now I'm full. I could give myself more to my wife, my kids, my students, my business people, and fill your own cup first, put your own mask on first, like the plane rides say, and then you can help others. At least for me, that makes me feel like I could overflow into other people because I've already filled myself.
Is that how you feel about just what you do every day is serving other people and really being at service?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's what I do. I almost never say no to people which is probably out of fault, um, but yeah, no, I'm a servant, and I try to help anybody in my path. I try to make their lives better. A lot of my students, obviously, I'm teaching them jujitsu, but a lot of students think that because you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you're also a black belt in everything else in life. So I have like a therapist office as well in my school, and I try to help people. I say it to be funny, but I'm 42. I know I'm not old, but I'm also not young. And a lot of my students are in their 20s and low 30s, and it's nice to be able to share my experiences with them because I've been where they are, and I know exactly what they're going through a lot of times with the stuff they're going through between, either marital things or just trying to be better at jiu-jitsu, trying to have a better career, things like that. I've struggled with all that stuff, and I understand what they're going through, and I have pretty decent advice to get through it. And I just try to be just an overall coach to everybody that I can.
Is that how it always been for you, as far as being helpful and serving others your entire life, or has that pivoted at some point of
I
a
would
particular
say
moment in your life?
I've always helped. So the action has always been that, but my thoughts were a little more selfish as I was younger. I would be thinking more of myself, but then I would help when I can. And now it's more I'm thinking of others, um, and it just feels a lot better that way. So I do. I think of myself as a servant, and I do try to help anybody I can, anytime I can, anywhere I can. It doesn't matter if it's on the side of the street or if it's wherever. I try my best to do that. And I've always had the action of helping people, but maybe my brain wasn't in it in the beginning, but now it is.
One of my previous guests, I believe it was Zanji Rivera, who said
Hmm.
being a competitor or being a fighter, it's very much so a selfish act. It's all about you. However, the moment you convert or step into that leadership role of being a coach or being an instructor, it becomes selfless. It's not about you, it's about other people. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when you're the fighter, you're the only one in there. You're doing this for your family and yourself, of course, and then when you become a coach, it's you to many. Um, yeah, so when you're the fighter, all the coaches are putting all their time into you. So I could see where he says it's more of a selfish thing. Obviously, way more selfish than being an actual coach. So yeah, fighter is many people to you, and then coach is you to many people. So I agree with him. That's very wise, I think.
Obviously, you've had a very rich career, very rich path of prior to where you got today, where you find yourself today, from Ultimate Fighter to UFC to finding MMA and then bridging into jiu-jitsu and now influencing people, millions online everywhere. Um, do you find that where you used to be, meaning what in a cage and fighting and being in that very selfish position of being all about you, build you to who you are today, so you can present this and help and be at service to others?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a very long UFC or even MMA career. I fought MMA from '06 to '09, so it was only 3 years, but it definitely set me up to do what I'm doing today. Obviously it put some credibility on my name as far as my teaching and my gym, um, and just learning all the skills because in that short 3 year period that I was actively fighting, I had 8 fights in 3 years, so it was a little over 3 fights a year. Um, or about a little under 3 fights a year. learning all that knowledge and getting all that experience and learning from really good coaches, like when I was on the Ultimate Fighter with Matt Serra,
Mm-hmm.
and learning from Rob Kahn, and just reaching out to different coaches, and just I spent some time with Miguel Torres, and just a ton of people all delved into me and put all their knowledge into me, and now I have that, and I could use that to spread to my students, to my fighters, to really anybody who needs that kind of assistance. So yeah, it definitely has helped. And just training jujitsu for 22 years now, and learning from probably about 100 different jujitsu coaches now, between in person, online. And it was all played a role. And then becoming a father and a husband, and all of this, it takes you away from focusing on yourself, because all of that is helping other people. So definitely being a father changed me. Being a husband changed me a lot, from being selfish to more of a giver.
Before we rewind your life back to the beginning, do tell me, how did becoming a father change your jiu-jitsu, or how did it change you being an instructor?
It definitely changed me as a coach and as a business owner, because I just got softer. I used to be, it's crazy, man. They used to call me the slave driver, my fighters. That was my nickname. And I don't know if I could ever go back to that. Like, and I understand and I remember it. And I was like, I was just trying to help them get to that point where they can make it. And if I
But what
wasn't
has
pushing them
changed?
hard.
What has changed besides this other human being, or you have few kids, but besides these human beings arriving to the earth, really
Yeah.
fundamentally, really nothing much changed, right? Yet everything has changed.
Yeah. Yeah. I never had a really soft side. And then when these little creatures were born, and you got to take care of their every, you and your wife, obviously, we take care of their everything they need, every need that they have, we had to take care of. And then they become little talking creatures, and then they're telling you they love you, and they're hugging you, and they're kissing you, and you're like, you just melt, and that kind of spills over every other area of your life, and I believe that's the way God meant for it to be. Is he wanted us to understand his love for Jesus, so he made us parents, so that we realize, holy crap, there is this unbelievable love that you can have. Because if you're not a parent, you could say, I love my dog, I love my nephew, but you have no clue what love is until you birth your child, and you're there, and you watch this creature grow and nurture it, and then you finally are like, oh, I get it. What everybody said, oh, you've never loved anything like you love your kids. And then, so once you get it, it can't help but spill to other areas. Now, anybody you associate with, you have so much love to give now, and so much, you didn't even realize you were capable of it. So yeah, it definitely spills over. It spilled over for me as a coach, with the ability I just got softer. I gave more leeway. I gave more,
So is that a good thing,
more
or
empathy.
is that a good thing,
I,
or not really? I mean, from one side you say you were
yeah.
tougher on guys, which means there was less leeway. There was probably more responsibility, more accountability in a sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And now you say that you have more empathy, which is very important from a leadership perspective too, right?
Yeah, I think it's good, because I think if you slay, one way more than the other, like if I just went slave driver with no empathy, I don't think you're the best coach you could be. And if I was just lenient and, oh yeah, show up to practice when you want and do this when you want, and yeah, you'll be fine. Oh, I understand. If you have too much of that, then I think also you're kind of screwed as well. So I think that nice balance, I think that's what it's done for me, is balance me out a little bit, which is what I needed. If you ask my wife or anybody that is close to me, my family, my mom, brothers, sisters, they would say that was a good balance now.
You were that tough, huh?
I mean, you could talk to some of these guys, and they could tell you some stories, but yeah, I expected what I expected, and don't waste my time, because I know what it takes to get there, and I know what it takes to stay there. And if you're not going to do it, then you can just go. And I was pretty vocal about that. And, now it's more like, hey, if you want to put the work in, come on, here I am. And if you don't, then go do something else. And that's okay too. And fighting's not for everybody. I kind of have that a little bit more understanding of people who don't put the work in. I'm like, okay, then Go find something you're willing to put the work in and go be great at that. But this probably won't be it. So, yeah.
So do you think this is the fact of you becoming a father, or this is the fact of you maturing up, meaning you are in your 40s right now? So like
Yeah.
you are at, either you getting close to the half of your life or you are at the half of it, depending how we slice this. But
Sure.
there's a lot of that time has passed,
Yeah.
and they call it life wisdom, right? We just become a little bit smarter, a little bit more lenient. We stop caring more about the little things and we focus
Yeah.
on the big things in life. Which one do
Y-
you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I mean, because I became a father at 30, 31 years old, and that's around the time I started to calm down a little bit. And it could be, hey, I'm in my 30s now, I'm getting a little wiser. But yeah, I think it was definitely both. It was definitely being a father, and then obviously as you get older, as long as everybody says, as you get older, you get wiser, but I don't think that's true. I think getting older and having more experiences when you get older and then reflecting on those experiences is what makes people wise. Like most people just think, oh, I'm 60 years old, I'm wise. No, you're not, unless you've reflected on your mistakes, reflected on what good you've done, and course corrected from there. I think that's what makes a person wise. And a lot of people don't do that. They just live their life mostly aimlessly and going here, and not really, okay, let me look at 2024. Okay, what good did I do in 2024? What decision did I make that I would make again? That was amazing. And now what decisions did I make that I would never make again? Okay, let's go into 2025 with that mindset. I'm cutting these people out. I'm cutting this activity out. It was a waste of time. I made a big mistake in business with this. I didn't spend enough time with my kids. This year going forward, I'm going to reflect on that, make the change, course correct. That's wisdom to me. Just being able to have the discernment to make better decisions going forward, and then seeing the fruit of those decisions and be like, okay, that was good. Now let me go into 2026. Let's see what I did in 2025. That was great. Okay, what didn't I do? And you just keep doing that. And every year you get smarter and wiser, and you don't make as many mistakes, and then you learn from others as well.
I mean, you're describing something very simple in life. Simply thinking about your own actions and
That's it.
reflecting on it. But so if this is so simple, how come so little people do it? I mean, how come not everybody does this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think part of it is maybe ignorance, and maybe if someone just heard the sentence I just said, they'd be like, oh, that makes sense, let me do that. Or a lot of it, I think, is distraction. These iPhones, these the shows on TV, like, I mean, we all get 24 hours in one day. If you're lucky, you get to sleep 8 of them. If you're lucky, you get to work at least 8 of them. That's 8 more hours. What are we doing with that time? Most of us are doing what? If you look at your phone right now and you go into the settings, it'll tell you how much screen time you have. I bet you most people have that 8 hours right there. If not, it's on a show that they're binge watching. And if it's not that, it's just something else that's not a good use of time. Like, you're not reflecting. Like, you didn't take an hour to reflect. You didn't take an hour to think about your life. I promise you that. 99% of people. So whatever you do in that 8 hours, and let's say another hour of it is eating, another hour of it is spending time with family. But what are you doing with that other 6 hours? Like that, I think that's the big thing that most people miss, is they're probably distracted, and they're not really thinking about what they can do to project forward, not just in money or career, but in every area, your health. Like, how are we feeling? How are you feeling every day? How do you look with your shirt off? How do you look naked? Right? Like, how do you feel every day? Do you feel energy? Are you sleeping? Like, do we think about these things for ourselves? Mostly the answer is no. We're distracted. But we'd rather look on TikTok. We'd rather check out, what other people are doing, and consume instead of create.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with anything that you're saying. I mean, and this bridge is even deeper. Like, if we want to pursue something exciting or something, make a better life for ourselves, like go to the academy and learn jiu-jitsu, or go to the gym and work out, go for a run, go for a walk. That's all within that block of time that you're describing.
Yes.
And if we are distracted, we will never achieve this. And this is why we don't get stuff done at all.
Yeah. And I think it's also another reason why over half of our country is obese.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
obesity, it could be more at this point. And this is why over half of our people are getting divorced. And this is why over half of our people are depressed and on antidepressants. And this is all the same thing. We're not living up to our potential, and we feel that, and we distract ourselves with whatever, drugs, alcohol, weed, whatever it is your thing is, porn. And we just, okay, let's numb ourselves with that. And then the next day looks exactly the same. And you're not living up to your potential, but it's easier to numb that out than to be like, okay, I'm not living to what I think I should be living. What can I do to make this better? What could I do to go forward and live out what I'm supposed to be doing? But most people don't even think, what am I supposed to be doing? What do I enjoy? They just go into their work, they come home, they get their paycheck. It's just an autopilot. Every day is autopilot instead of thinking. Like, let me think. What do I want? Okay, how do I get there? Is it even possible for me to do this? Like, okay, it is possible. So who can help me? Who's there to, anyway, yeah. So that I see this a lot, and this is what I mostly try to help people with. Obviously jiu-jitsu, and if they want to be a fighter, I have those, obviously can help them get there. But if you don't have this first part down, you're not going to get those other things. It's just not going to happen.
Is this how it always been for you? I mean, in a sense of thinking, planning, being very strategic about your day, or is
as long
this
as I
fairly
can
new?
remember, as long
Really?
as I can remember, yeah. My
Where's
uncle,
Where's the sourcing?
I'd say Jesus. I think it's a gift, man. Like my wife's like, since she's known me, I've been this way, and we met when we were 9. And but honestly, like my uncle Jimmy, who I give a lot of credit to, handed a book to me when I was 19, and it was called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated reading before that, and I only read things I read in school because they forced you. And then I went to college for 4 years, and they forced me to read other things I didn't want to read, and I read it anyway, and I studied, and blah blah blah. And then Uncle Jimmy's like, read this book, and I'm like, I'm not really. I can't stand reading. He's like, why can't you stand reading? I said, because I've just been reading stuff I don't like. He's like, well, try this book out. I think you'll like it. I'm like, So I grabbed it, and we were just hanging out in his room. I opened the first page, and I started reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't put it down. Like, we were supposed to be hanging out and talking, and I wasn't saying a word. He just saw me. He was lifting weights, and I was just reading and reading. And I think I must have gotten through 60% of it, like in the next hour and a half. And that was it, man. Like, that propelled me to, so luckily I got it at 19, and that propelled me to the personal growth and personal development space. And then I said, what's next? Give me the next one. And he just kept feeding me these books, and I was reading them, and I was implementing and reading and implementing. And then I started, fighting. And then I did sales right after college. I started fighting, and it just, all this self-development and self-help really helped. I mean, like, if you do what it says, if you don't just read it and do nothing, if you'd actually do what it says. And I spiraled and joined different coaching groups, and hired trainers, and hired, okay, who can help me get to this level, and who can help me get to that level. And so, yeah, my entire adult life has been this. I mean, it's a gift and a curse at the same time, because it's hard for me to chill, but it's been great, because I can use this. Obviously, it's helped me in my own life, and I can use this to help my kids. I can use it to help my wife. I can use it to help my students, my family members. So it's been wonderful. I've probably read close to 500 books by now, maybe 600 if I had to actually count. So yeah, it's as long as I remember.
Do you think that book and that event with your uncle was a pivotal moment of your life?
It was one of them, yeah. A big one happened before that, and it was, weirdly enough, the same uncle. But you want to talk about like before that moment?
Yeah, sure. Tell me.
When I was, and a lot of people don't know this, but when I was, how old would I have been? Had to have been 14, whatever ninth grade is. So 14 or 15, I started smoking a lot of weed, and drinking, and just not going down a good path. And in ninth grade, I failed every single subject. I failed all of them. And in my head, you don't need to graduate to be successful. You can, whatever, do this or that. I didn't even know I didn't have a plan. but I knew like I hated school, and I was like, well, I already failed every class. There's probably no coming back from this. I might as well just drop out. And I remember one November, it was Thanksgiving, and my uncle lived in New Jersey, and we lived in upstate New York, so he would come up for holidays. And good old Uncle Jimmy, my mom asked him to speak with me about what I had was planning to do, and he took me aside, and he's pretty level, but he was pretty pissed, and he's like looking at me, and he's like, "Come on, man, let's talk." I'm like, "All right." So I'm probably 15 years old at this point, and he's like, you know, "What the f are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You failed every subject. You thinking of dropping out?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I don't need this. I could do something else. I know I'll do something else." He's like, "If you drop out of school and you set this pattern of quitting and failing, it's gonna snowball into the rest of your life. You're gonna quit everything. You're gonna, and I don't know many people that didn't graduate high school and ended up having great success." He's like, "You got to at least finish. You don't have to go to college, but you got to finish high school, and you got to, he said, do you want to be successful?" And he looked me right in the eyes, and I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to help people? Do you want to help, have a family and do what you need to do and this and that?" I said, "Yes." He's like, "Then you better get your ass over there and you need to graduate high school." He's like, "Because that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to set you off." And I was like, okay. He's like, "You got to, whatever you're doing, you got to stop. If you're doing this, weed, alcohol, you're hanging out with the wrong people." He's like, "You got to cut them off and you got to do the right thing and you got to go." And I don't know, like sometimes, obviously my parents told me the same thing, but it didn't have the effect. Like it was like, I know what I'm doing. Like a lot of times your parents, you don't listen to your parents. But when it's somebody who's not your parent who you respect, and he was one of the very few successful like people in our family. He had a business and he was doing really well. So I took it. I'm like, he's right, and I got to do this right now. So I literally called my two buddies who I would smoke the weed with, and I was like, "Listen, I can't be hanging with you guys. I'm not going to be doing the weed anymore. I'm not going to be drinking. I'm not going to be partying. I got to do this. I got to set this up." I went to every single teacher that I failed, and I'm like, "Listen, what do I need to do?" They're like, "Well, you already failed ninth grade. You got to go into 10th. What you got to do is you got to take 10th grade and ninth grade at the same time. And then you got to take 11th and 10th grade at the same time, or whatever. And then 12th and 11th. This is the only way to do it." And I had to like double up each year, like two classes here and there. And I was like, "Is it possible? Has anybody ever done this?" They're like, "Yeah, you could do it. You just got to work your butt off." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And at that point, my relationship with teachers were almost always adversarial. And this is the first time I ever felt like they were on my side. They were like rooting for me. And I'm like, "What? This is weird." Like, so if you just show them that you're going to work and you're going to try, they'll actually like help you. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like that was a big epiphany for me. And I was like, "Okay, well, let's do this." And dude, they were rooting for me. They were like everything they could do to help. They were helping. Extra work on the side, extra help on the side, after class, before class, whatever I could do, they were helping me. I was like, all right, they're helping me. I'm not going to let anybody down. I'm going to study. So 10th grade and ninth grade, obviously I failed ninth grade, but 10th, 11th, and 12th, I got all 95s and up. High honor roll every single year. I ended up like raising my GPA from like nothing to like 3 point something. And it changed everything because I was like, holy crap, if you put the work in, you could actually do it. And I just took that into college, and I took that into jiu-jitsu and baseball and all the other stuff I was trying to do. And it changed my whole life for sure. It was one of the pivotal moments.
Walk me through what's going in your mind during and after that conversation with your uncle. Because what I'm hearing as an outsider here is something that's almost unheard of. I mean, you are 14 or 15, which means you are not fully mature. Like,
No, not at
forget
all.
about the good or bad stuff, but like
Mhm.
the comprehension that takes place inside our head. I don't know if 15-year-old is really able to process this information in such way as like, I need to make a logic out of this. I need to create my plan so I'm successful in my 30s and 40s. So I can make money and this. Like, I'm not sure if that really takes place. I mean, what
Yeah.
really happened in your
Yeah.
mind that caused you to literally wake up next morning and say, screw all this. I'm not talking to
Yeah.
you guys. You are wasting my time. I need your help in order for this. What is it going to take for me to come up on top?
From a young age, I had the success. Like I wanted success. Like I grew up very, I mean, I wouldn't say poor, like we had food and stuff, but not wealthy, if you want to say. And, there's a lot of things that I remember being as a kid. Mom, I want this. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't afford it. Damn. Excuse me. And I heard that often. And I remember thinking like, that's never going to be me. Like when I'm an adult, I'm going to have whatever, the money to buy whatever I want, the freedom to do what I want. Like that's not going to be me. And I think it was like even I asked my grandmother when I was like 5 years old, Grandma, what makes the most money? Like what should I be? What makes the most money? She told me a surgeon. I'm like, all right, I'll be a surgeon. Like what 5-year-old is that? I don't know. Like I don't know much. My daughter's 5. She hasn't asked me that. You know what I mean? Um, so that was in my brain from a young age. And when he told me you're not going to have that, you're not going to be that if you drop out, something just whoa. And he was there. He was where I wanted to be. So someone telling me that from an authority of where I wanted to be, telling me that that's not going to happen as much as you think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen if you continue this route. And he was right, because if I continued that, I would have dropped out. I would have continued doing what I was doing. I probably would have got a crappy job, and I probably would have stayed in that little town and not done anything. So I don't know, like he Tony Robbins me, like he made me look ahead, and this is what life's going to be like if you continue this. And then, okay, here we are. You don't have to do that. You can make a change right now. And that was a spiritual day, man. That clicked, and it clicked hard. And it was enough to take an undisciplined 15-year-old and make him disciplined and driven. And I've never really lost it since then. Like it's always been there. I feel like it was dormant, but that just brought it out. And the thought that I would not have success was like enough. It was my why. I was like, no, average is the enemy. I'm not going to be average. I have to go do something. And if he's telling me I can't, if I'm dropping out, I believe him, and I gotta go do this and change the trajectory. So that's kind of my thought process from what I remember. I mean, this was almost
Well
30
back.
years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good for you, because many, I mean, I would say 99% of people would choose the other path, and
Agreed.
you are the odds were against you. You're the minority in all of this decisions like this. So let's fast forward here a little bit, and you getting to Ultimate Fighter, stepping into the cage, and that's very different than being a surgeon. That's very different than even from one profession side, but also from a monetary compensation side. We're looking at very different perspectives or views of what success might look like here.
Yeah.
What makes you step into that route instead of, truly going down towards what general population would view as success?
Yeah. Well, as far as I was a baseball player in school, and that was my focus. I always had to have a focus. So my focus was baseball. So I played through high school, and I was like, okay, I got to play in college now, and I want to make it to the major leagues. So that was the carrot in front of me. And when I transferred from New York to University of Tampa here in Florida, man, it is such a big step up in competition. It's unbelievable. It's like going from little league to, adults playing. And I realized quickly that some of the guys who were 10 times better than me weren't going to make it. Like it was crazy. Like my eyes opened, and I'm like, I was pretty decent for New York, but then you come here, it's just a totally different story. And I just thought to myself, even with 4 years of hard work in college, I didn't see it happening. And I made a decision to stop playing baseball in 2003. And I remember watching the UFCs on Blockbuster Video and watching Hoist Gracie. And I remember thinking, okay, I eventually need to try this, but I can't do it now because I'm thinking about baseball. But once baseball ended, I was like, okay, I gotta do this now. And that's when I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. I found a school in New York, and I went to a Hoist Gracie seminar, and everything just clicked. And I was like, I was way better at jiu-jitsu, especially in my first 2 or 3 months, than I ever was at baseball. I just had the knack for it. In baseball, I was pretty decent at it, but this, I knew I could get way better than I was at baseball. And felt like it was just meant to be. So the whole reason I fought MMA, to answer your question, was because I got pretty good at jiu-jitsu. And a buddy of mine, Monster Lobster, Alan Barubi, who was on season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter, was a friend of ours in the gym, and he had like 8 months of jiu-jitsu experience, and then he took an MMA fight. And he's like, the only reason I'm doing this MMA fight is because I want to promote my restaurant. Once I get the microphone, when I win, I could tell all these people to come to my restaurant. I'm like, damn, dude, there's a lot easier ways to market than that and get your face punched in. But hey, man, we'll help you get ready, and we'll head over, and we'll, whatever we could do to help you, let's go. So I kind of went through the whole process as helping him. And then we went out there. I watched his fight. My friend won in like 2 minutes by guillotine choke. And I remember thinking, man, like, and I was a purple belt at the time. I was like, I usually destroy my friend Alan in training. And he went in there and did that. I literally told my coach right then and there, I'm like, dude, sign me up for one of these things. I'm going to go in and smash somebody. And I really, that was why I fought. That it wasn't like, oh, I love it. Like my guys now, Billy Q and Matt Frivola and those guys, like, they want the belt. They love fighting. They would rather be nowhere else but in the UFC fighting, and like they love this stuff. Like that was never me. For me, it was like, if he could do it, I could do it. Like my competitive side was like, if he just got all that. And of course, I was 23 years old, 22 years old, 20, 22, 23, 24, whatever. I wanted that recognition. Like I saw after the fight, he was, taking pictures with people, and he was getting all this attention, and he won. He felt great. He was like, I was like, I'm going to try that. Like I want that. And that's why I fought. And that's not a good reason to do something. Like I don't think that's like, going to sustain. It's not a good why. A good why is like, I want to change the life for my family, and I love fighting, and I want to go in there, and this, there's a lot better whys than, hey, I just want to be, recognized or famous or whatever that is. So anyway, I knew I had the skill set on the ground to go into an MMA fight. And as long as I get that fight to the ground, I felt like I could pretty much tap out most people. So I had him sign me up for a fight, and it was against a striker. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I could take him down. He's not going to know what to do. This is perfect. And literally that's exactly what happened. 2 months later, I found myself in the cage and walking down this aisle thinking like, what the hell did I just do? Why would I do this? In my head, I'm like, I have a degree. I have a 4-year degree, business management. I could be getting a job making, I'm making $600 to do this. And that's if I win. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is so stupid. And then when I get in the cage, I'm like, okay, well, there's no way I could get out of the cage now. I got to fight this guy. So I might as well just flip the switch on and get this guy to the ground as fast as possible and try to win this fight. These are the thoughts going through my brain. Not like, oh, this guy's dead, I'm going to kill him. So the fight starts. He throws a leg kick. I'm like, ooh, that stung. I'm like, I got to get this guy down. And we threw a couple punches, and I clinched him. I got him to the floor. I quickly took his back, and I had the rear naked choke locked in. I win the fight, 53 seconds, round 1. And then I get it. Now I understand why people do this. The second I stood up from that win, that him tapping my arm and the ref getting between us, and I stood up, whatever that feeling is, it's insane, man. And like, you bottle it up. I could sell it to a rich guy for $5 million, and he would buy it every time. Like the feeling you get, like just adrenaline rushing, everyone's screaming, the music, the lights. So you're like, it must have been like what they felt like in the Roman times, when they're in the Colosseum and they end up, slaying an animal and not dying that day. And I felt it, and I was like, man, this is incredible. And in my head, I'm like, I got to do this again right away. Like, I want to do this tonight again. I want to do this tomorrow. I want to do this again. You forget the 2 months of training and how hard it was. You forget how hard it is mentally to actually walk down that aisle and then like, oh my God, I got to fight another man in front of all these people. You forget all of that, and you just do it. And you're like, you sign yourself up for another one. And I'm like, I got to do this again. This is incredible. You get to the gym that next day, and everyone's like, oh, good job. This is amazing. Yeah, great job. The kids in the kids class want to take pictures with you. Like, it's incredible. And you're like, I got to do more of this. So that was for me personally, and I'm just being honest. Like, a lot of people maybe feel this way, but they won't admit it. That was the only reason I was doing this. And I signed up for my second fight. It was against another guy who was 1-0. We were both 1-0. I'm like, okay, this is perfect. Let me train again. I show up to the weigh-ins that night, and he doesn't show up. And I had trained 7 weeks for the fight, so I'm like, this is sucks. I'm supposed to fight tomorrow. And I look around and I find the promoter. I'm like, hey, man, what are we going to do about this? And he's like, sorry, man, there's nothing I can do. So I keep looking around. I'm like, I got to fight somebody. So I'm like looking. And I see a dude with cauliflower ear who is not on the card because I already saw the guys that weighed in and he wasn't on the card. And I'm like, what about him? He's like, well, I could ask him. I'm like, okay, cool. So he's like, hey, man, do you want to fight this guy? He's like, all he said was, well, what's his record? He's like, he's 1-0. He's like, okay. So I was like, shoot. So this guy's either really dumb or really good. Like 1-0. So it happened. It turned out being a guy named Matt Brown, who most of you who are watching this know. He ended up being top 10 in the world welterweight. Has some of the most exciting fights and knockouts in UFC history. Just a savage of a man. Like, and I had no clue. He kind of just looked like a redneck, to be honest. Like I think he was like he was dipping in there, and he's like, I guess he had just fought 2 weeks before. So he was like 188 pounds. I was weighing in there at 169. And they're like, well, we can't do it unless you're 10 pounds. So I'm like, dude, so I start drinking the water. I start putting stuff in my pockets. I get back on the scale, and then I got it to where we were 10 pounds off. And so I fought him. And I was doing really well in the beginning. And then like Matt Brown fashion, he came back and just destroyed. And then I felt instantly what it was like on the other side of that feeling. And it was literally the same exact high, but just flip it upside down. It was like the worst feeling I've ever had in my life up to that point. I was only 23 years old, but in 23 years, I have never felt that bad. And it wasn't even the punches and the whatever. I was exhausted, and I was backstage, and just like the disappointment you feel, and you're like, oh, I freaking suck. I can't believe, how did I let that happen? I took him down like 6 times. He got back up every time. I'm like, geez, this guy is good. And in the match, you're going through this mental conversation where you're like, wow, I don't know how much I have left to give. And I'm trying to punch, and he's hitting me, and I'm not landing anymore. And then he just took over. And I was like, that's it. Like, I'm never going to fight again. Like that was the worst thing I've ever been through. And my face is all bruised up. I have a headache. Like, how am I going to go out to all the people who are there to see me from my gym? Like, what am I going to say to them? Like, you make it so big in your head. Like, really, it's not a big deal. Like, everyone's going to live their life normally, just like if you would have won or lost. But you make it so big in your head that everyone's going to be like, oh man, they're going to think you suck. Total opposite of what I was going for. And, you go out and people are like, oh, it's all right, Matt. All right, next time. And that was it, man. I was done. In my head, I was like, all right, 1-1. I'm good. I could open a gym now eventually and just do jiu-jitsu, which is what I love. Like, I love competing in jiu-jitsu. I'm not getting punched in the face. Like that's my wheelhouse. And all of a sudden, while I'm 1-1, that same guy that fought Monster Lobster, Alan Berube, ends up with a 2-1 record, getting on the Ultimate Fighter Season 5. We went to the tryout together. I was going to go with him. I knew there was no way I could make 155, but I was like, let me just try out anyway and just go with him and see what it's like. And he talked his way on, man, because he had like a year of jiu-jitsu. He had boxed in the past and wrestled, but he had a year of jiu-jitsu. He was a white belt. And you don't get in the UFC as a white belt. Like, it just doesn't happen. And he gets on the Ultimate Fighter. And he was like, we were trying to help him get ready. And then he left for 6 weeks. He was gone. And when he came back, he had all these new gear. Like, they gave him all these Ultimate Fighter jerseys and clothes. He gave me a few pairs of things. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then he took me to UFC 69, I think it was. It was where Matt Serra knocked out George St. Pierre in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he took me to that UFC. The UFC gave him front row tickets. Like, he's in the UFC now. Like, and I walked. I remember, I'll never forget it. Like, it was yesterday. We were in this hotel that all the fighters were staying at. So of course all the fans find out about it, and they try to stay at the same hotels. And the lobby was just filled with fans. And we go out of the cab into the hotel. We go from the hotel to the elevator, and we had to stop about 60 times for him to take pictures with people. And I was like, and he lost his first fight on that show. But it didn't matter. They saw him on the Ultimate Fighter. So they were like, oh, that's Monster Lobster. That's the lobster guy. And I'm sitting here like a nobody, like feeling even more like a nobody. I'm like, all right, go ahead, do your thing, man. They're taking a picture. And good on him, man. I'll never forget. He was like, hey, this is Matt Arroyo. He's going to be on the next Ultimate Fighter. You should get your picture with him now. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And I'm taking pictures. But I like once your brain expands, you can't shrink it back. Like I saw what was possible for him in just like 6 months time, really 6 weeks time. And we get to that elevator and we looked at each other. We're like, what the hell just happened? Like, he's like, I don't know. He's like, let's go back down and do it again. I'm like, all right, we go back down the elevator. He walks from one side of the hotel to the other. More people want his autograph, want his picture. I'm like, this is crazy. He looks at me. He's like, I could get you on this show. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, man, if you want to get on, I know exactly how to do it. He's like, I made friends with all the producers. I know what they're looking for. I know what they want. I sent them all lobster rolls. They all love me. He's like, if you want to get on, I can get you on. He's like, but you need to get one more win because you don't have a winning record. You're 1-1. I'm like, oh, I said I wasn't going to fight again, but I need some of this. Whatever he's got going on here, I want that. Like that fame, that whatever. I want it. And I know he wasn't making any money, but at the same time, I'm like, I want that. And I think I can get it because I got the ground game. I got the skill set. I could probably get away with it. So we get back and he's like, do you want to do it? I'm like, yes. He's like, let's sign up for another fight. The next tryout is in 3 months. I'm like, okay, sign me up. So I sign up for my third fight. I'm 1-1. I beat the first guy in 53 seconds. I lost to Matt Brown in round 2. And now I'm like, dude, get me another guy who's 1-1 or something like that. Like 1-0, 0-1. Let's just get this win. So we find the guy. And of course, 2 weeks before the fight comes, he backs out. And they give me this other guy named Reggie Pena, who, if you know who Reggie Pena is, he's fought in bare knuckle. This guy has like freaking 40 fights. But back then he was 1-1 and he was just this big, strong wrestler. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm fighting Reggie Pena. But I got to win because I got to get it. So no matter what, I had to win. And I knew I got really tired against Matt Brown. So I'm like, I can't get tired in this fight. I got to relax a little bit. I got to just take my time. I remember thinking like my word of that month was controlled aggression. Be aggressive, but stay controlled. Stay breathing. So I try to be relaxed. I go out there. If you guys ever want to see me fly through the air, like in a body slam fashion, multiple times in one fight, you'll never see this again in any other fight you watch. Just go YouTube Matt Arroyo versus Reggie Pena, and you'll see the craziest crap you've ever seen in an MMA fight. He literally picked me up like this and slammed me down 2 times. Anyway, it was a very quick fight. It was like 2.5 minutes, but it was fast and furious. He knocked me out. I woke up. He slammed me down. I got up. And then like the thing that changed the whole fight was I threw a head kick, which I never do, but I was like, screw it, I'm going to throw a head kick. And my big toe inserted into his eye, which you're not supposed to be able to stop the fight if it's a kick. If it's a finger poke, you stop the fight, you give him time. But a big toe, and I have a big ass big toe, and that thing went right in his eye. And all of a sudden he went like this, and I was like, this is my chance. I punched him in the face, broke my knuckle. That's why it looks like that. So he ducked his head. I punched him in the head. He took me down. I put him in a triangle choke. I ended up winning the fight, and I got to 2-1 record. And weirdly enough, Reggie and I are friends now, and he trains with us at my gym, and his kids train. His son's the same age as my son, so it's kind of weird how things come back around. But anyway, I get to 2-1, and now it's time. And I told Alan, I'm like, all right, I got the win. Now what? He's like, okay, let's go to the tryout. Here's what you need to do. He gave me a whole game plan of what they were looking for, what he wanted me to tell the producers. Like, dude, it was all crafted out like a Chael Sonnen, post-fight speech. Like I was ready. Like, so I go do the tryout and I freaking, because Alan referred me, I made it to the final level, which is the interview. So everybody gets to grapple. Then they cut a bunch of people. Then you get to do the striking. Then they cut a bunch of people. Then only like a few hundred people get to do the interview. So I was really nervous. I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. And Alan's like, you need to do this. He's like, but first we're gonna have a couple drinks because you look too nervous and you're not gonna get on this way. I'm like, all right, let's go. 23 years old. We're in wherever it was, Texas. We go to this bar. He lines me up 4 shots, and I'm like, okay, boom. He's like, let's go. Next one. Let's go, all of them. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like, how you feeling? I'm like, I actually feel pretty good. He's like, all right, let's go. So we get in line. It's my turn. Dude, I couldn't have done exactly what he said to say is what I did. And they loved every second of it. They were laughing. They tried to talk. He's like, don't let them talk. He's like, just keep talking. Like, talk over them. Tell them to be quiet and listen to you. And you're the one that needs to be. And I was just this cocky dude who I had to like, it was acting. Like I was acting this whole time. Like I feel bad for the show because they thought they were getting something that they weren't. But whatever, it got me on, and I get on the show, and I win a couple fights, and then I get an injury, and whatever. They ended up putting me in the finale anyway to fight, and I win the finale fight, and they gave me a contract. So I don't know what your original question was, but there we are.
So at this point, okay, so you go through these up and downs, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of turbulences through emotional and obviously physical.
Yeah.
You get the contract. Is this your dream come true?
No. I mean, my dream come true was two things, really. My dream was to open an MMA gym, basically jiu-jitsu. Of course, we could do striking and wrestling and all that too, but to open a jiu-jitsu gym and train and teach jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life. That was my dream. That was right there.
So is this why you stepping into the cage? Is this why you fighting? Is this why you going through all of this physical and mental abuse? Because I mean, I don't know any other way to describe this, but like you're making all these sacrifices with the pure purpose of you having your own place.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I knew deep down that it would help the credibility for owning your own gym. So, but that was a very small part of it. Like, you could open a gym without being a UFC fighter, without being an MMA fighter. I wanted to be famous. I'll just admit it. Like, I did. I wanted whatever that was, that feeling of importance, that feeling of people like seeing you. And I thought with the skill set that I had of getting really good at jiu-jitsu really fast, I felt like I could at least hold my own in there with whoever in the world. I thought, as long as I get them to the ground, I knew I had a chance to win. And so I had to obviously sharpen up some striking and some wrestling and stuff like that. But I knew my jiu-jitsu was where it was at. And I just knew, like, I wasn't an actor, so I'm not going to be in movies. I wasn't, what else? Another athlete like baseball. Like, I wasn't going to make it in baseball. And the only other way I saw myself being able to do this at the time, this is before the big social media boom, was UFC, and that was really hot at the time, and it still is obviously, but it was super hot. Chuck Liddell and all those guys. GSP was on the rise, and I thought that was my way to do it. And if I didn't make it, if I didn't get much success, I knew that of course that would help me either way. It would help me with opening a gym because I'd have the credibility. Oh, you were a UFC veteran. You can never take that away from me. That I was an Ultimate Fighter reality show veteran and a UFC veteran. Like, I could put that next to my name until when I'm 95, I could put that next to my name, right? So I knew that would help with the gym, but really, I was going to try to make as much money and try to win as many fights as I can, and then I was going to try to open a gym and do that kind of stuff. So, and then the money.
Did you make as much money as you possibly could? Did you win as many fights as you possibly could? I mean,
I tried.
Did that go according to plan?
So when you're 24 years old, at least for me, the most I had ever made in a single year was $46,000, and that was in 2005, and that I was a life insurance agent. So if you want to just kind of catch up, from the time I graduated college to the time I went on The Ultimate Fighter, the job that I had was a life insurance agent. Sold life insurance for like a year and a half. I think I made 46 the first year and like 51 the next year. And this was in 2005 and 2006. So that was my gauge. Like, that's, to me, I don't know if that was, I didn't think it was a lot of money, but for me, it was like, okay, I was paying my bills. So when I fought on The Ultimate Fighter, they were paying me $500 a week for 6 weeks, which only ended up being $3,000. If you win a fight by submission or knockout, they give you an extra $5. So I won 2 fights by submission, so that's another 10. So that's 13,000. Then they were going to pay you another 3,000 not to fight between the ending of the airing of the show and the finale. Like, don't fight, just shut your mouth and just hold out until the finale. It's another $3,000. So that was what, 16,000 right there. And so I got that when I got off the show, and I'm like, damn, I haven't made 16,000 in 6 weeks ever. This is amazing. So to me, that was a lot of money, right? Back then, as a 24-year-old. And then when I fought in the finale, I beat the guy and I got a really cool looking submission, and I won submission of the night. And back then it was a fight night, so it was only 15,000. So that night I made $43,000 in one night. Between my sponsorships, between what the UFC paid me, with the the submission of the night, So to me, I was rich. I'm like, holy crap, I just made 46 grand in a night. Like that's good by anybody's standard. I don't care who you are. Like, and then of course you don't get paid again until you fight. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I better, after a few months, I'm like, I guess I better fight again. So anyway, right after the show, I opened the gym and I was trying to grow a business and fight in the UFC at the same time. And I was giving like 50% effort to each, and I was not doing well in either. I lost the last two fights, and then I wasn't getting any new students. I had like 30 something students for like 2 years, which is terrible in my opinion. So after my second loss in the UFC in 2009, the UFC cut me because I didn't have enough fights to kind of like manage that record. Like if you were 18-3 and you lost twice in a row, they're going to keep you around because you have a big record. But I didn't have many fights. I had like 3 or 4 fights. So they cut me. I got the email, you're cut from the UFC, and 90% of me felt relief. I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh man, I don't have to do this anymore. Like I don't think anybody in the history of the UFC who really wanted to be there got their walking papers and felt relief and happy. They're like, damn it, my life's over. What am I going to do now, kind of thing. Where I was like, oh, thank God, I could just focus on the gym now. Like that was God telling me, like, this isn't the path, this is your path. The guidance that I always look for, the signs. And I was like, okay, well now I can go all in on the Jiu-Jitsu Academy. So in 2007 to 2009, I was fighting and running the gym. And then 2009, I'm like, okay, let me see what this looks like if I put everything I have into this. And that's what I did. And we went from 40 students to 100 students pretty quickly. And by 2011, I actually learned how to market and how to sell. And then we just went up from there. We went to 300 students, and then we had to get a new space, and we went to 500 students, and now we're between 500 and 600 students, and everything's going well. We have 22 coaches. We have 9,000 square feet. It's just it took on a mind of its own. It's running itself. So no, I did not make a ton of money in the UFC. I wouldn't recommend anybody fight in the UFC even today unless they really truly love it and really like this is their life. They want this to be their life, because you're going to get your body destroyed. You're going to get hit in the head often. You can possibly get brain injuries. You're going to get injured in training, ankles, knees, elbows, fingers, knuckles, wrists, nose. Like look at my nose, it's still jacked up. Cauliflower ear, you get way more of that when you're doing MMA. So if you're going to endure all that, and they're not even like the first contract you get in the UFC right now is the same contract I got in 2007, if you can imagine that. 12,000 and 12,000. Like I think my first contract was 8 and 8, 10 and 10, 12 and 12. Now it's 12 and 12, 14, 14, 16, 16. Like it didn't go up in 15 years. It still hasn't gone up. So like if you're going to endure all of that to make under $100,000 a year if you win and fight 3 times in a year, I just can't see that. I don't know. Like you have to love it.
Why did you do it? I mean, I hear you that you wanted to have your own place. I hear you want to have fame. But at the same time, right now, you're telling me that you would never recommend this to anybody else. So why did you pick the most grinding, the most vulnerable, the most, uncomfortable path to achieve what you've done? And ultimately, you have succeeded, right? You have what you wanted.
In the end, yes.
But why go that route?
Yeah, honestly, it was because of jiu-jitsu. I was very good at jiu-jitsu very fast. Like I got my blue belt in 2 months. I got my purple belt in 2 years. It takes most people 4 to 5 years to get your purple. And I was tapping out black belts in 2 years of training. So in my head, I'm like, I have this gift. Like this is a talent. This isn't normal. Like the people who have been training 2 years are decent. They're not tapping black belts in tournaments. So in my head, I had that, and I'm like, well, this is my path. This is my avenue that I'll be able to get that fame, money, whatever it is I was searching for. And even though this is the hardest sport in the world, in my opinion, this is what I'm good at. And I always thought if I could get the fight to the ground, I could beat anyone in the world, is what I thought in my head. And I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I thought because of how the success I was having in jiu-jitsu. So no, I didn't have to go into the UFC, but I had an opportunity, and I'm an opportunist. If I see an opportunity and I think it's going to benefit me, I'm going to take it. And my opportunity was to get on that Ultimate Fighter because my buddy got on and he said he can get me on. So it all stemmed from there. If I didn't get on that show, like if let's say I went to that tryout and they said no, that, I promise you, that would have been the end of my career. I would have been 1-1. I would have just continued on with jiu-jitsu and competing in jiu-jitsu, and that would have been it. But I was like, well, I got on and I made some money. I had a little fame. People were asking for autographs. I got kind of addicted to that. I was like, that's pretty cool. I went to these UFCs. Like, the UFC gives you free tickets to all their events if you are in the UFC. And my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, we took full advantage of it for all those years. And we went to like 3 or 4 or 5 UFCs a year. And when you go, again, people are coming up to you. Oh, that's Matt Arroyo from The Ultimate Fighter. Oh. It was just cool. And I was like, I'm just going to ride this wave out as long as it goes. I'm obviously not going to go into these fights to lose. I'm going to try my best to win. If you watch any one of my fights, you're seeing me come at these people to win. I'm looking for takedowns. I'm looking for submissions. There was never a point where I was just like, I'm just going in to go in. Like, I went in to win. I'm competitive. I want to win. And I tried to get it to the ground every time. And sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. But the reason I chose this one is because that's where I felt I would be able to get what I was looking for, and because of the talent that I had for jiu-jitsu.
A moment ago, you said if you didn't get on Ultimate Fighter, life would be different. The path would be different. I want to ask you a different question. What would happen if, at the age of 14, your uncle didn't give you the speech? Where would you be now? Have you ever thought about that?
I have. I think part of me, it would probably lie dormant, but there is definitely part of me that knows I was meant for something bigger than that town I was in, than dropping out. And so I think eventually it would have came out somewhere, somehow. But yeah, I think, let's just say it didn't. I would have dropped out for sure. Maybe I would have stayed in that town, but something tells me I wouldn't have, because there's just nothing there. I probably would have moved to New Jersey, because I think the big plan B I had was my uncle Ken, and this is a different uncle, while I was a senior in high school, kept telling me that I could come work for him, and he was like a stock guy, like he's a financial advisor, and he was telling me all about it, and like, you get your series, whatever, and you can sell under me. He was showing me how much money he was making. So in my head, that was like a plan B for me. So that's probably what I would have ended up doing. I probably would have moved to New Jersey. I probably would have worked for him, and I would have been doing that. And I don't know if I would have had success at that or not, but that's what I'd be doing for sure, now that I think back. And I probably would have had some level of success, but nothing.
Very different path than what you were experiencing. Very different path than what you're experiencing today.
100%. Yeah, like, I probably would have went to work and made the money, but I probably wouldn't have been happy going to work for that. Like, I wouldn't have been excited every day like I am now to get up and get going. Like, it'd be the rat race. That's what it would be. And then I would have gotten a nice car and a nice house, because that's the stuff I was looking for. And I was like, you know what? And then I would have had to have worked. Like, I would have been enslaved to those things. And to open my own thing, or think about and reflect on what I want to do every day, wouldn't have been there, because I would have had to have paid for those things, and I have to keep working. So that's kind of, I'm pretty positive that's what I'd be doing. So
today, clearly there is a point of success. Today, clearly, there is, people look up to you, not only in person with your academy, but also online. I mean, your brand, your name is quite visible all over, everywhere, especially with social media. You are making humongous impact on everybody all around. What is next for you? Like, we talk about goals, we talk about things that you chase, we talk about things that are meaningful, bring satisfaction to you. But I feel like everything that you've described as a success, you've accomplished. So what's next? What is Matt doing next? What takes you these days?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I sometimes have trouble deciding that. Like, every year, my wife and I write our goals down, and honestly, every year it's getting harder. Like, it used to be simple; it was easy. I knew exactly what that next path was going to be. But so about 2 years ago now, July, so almost 2 years ago, I met a guy named Kyle, who owns a company called People Trendy, and I had been trying to grow my social media account the whole time since the end of UFC, when like Instagram started coming out in 2010, 11, whenever it came out, to now, with no success. I just wasn't consistent enough. I would post a video here and there. I just felt like it was a full-time job. And when I met him and his company, who basically helps you grow your social media, I was like, all right, it's really expensive to do, like super expensive in my head. And I was like, but if it works, like I sell a lot of courses, jujitsu courses. I call them my blueprints, and I was selling them over the last 10 years, and it was doing okay, nothing crazy. And I was like, if I could grow my following to, in my head, it was like, if I could grow to 100,000 people, like I'll probably sell a lot more courses. I'll be able to pay this guy's fee and probably make a few extra bucks for myself. And that's kind of where my head was at. And then when he came on board and did what he did, and, we'd meet once a month, we'd film 30, 40 videos, and then he would literally do the rest. Like he'd tell me what subjects to film. He'd film it with his amazing, awesome camera, and he'd edit it masterfully, and he'd post it to my TikTok, my Instagram, my Facebook, and my YouTube every single day, nonstop, every day for 2 years now. I had no clue that it was going to grow as much as it did. Like we got to that that 100,000 follower goal I had happened in 2 months. I thought that was like my end game. Like if he could just over the next few years get me to 100,000 people. And it was crazy because people were really liking the videos, and it was really helping a lot of people. And I was getting all these messages, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I honestly thought that there's some potential there, but never did I think it was going to do what it did. And so since then, like a lot of opportunities have opened up that really those kinds of opportunities haven't opened up since I was in the UFC. Like when you're in the UFC, everybody wants a piece of you. They want to fly you here and bring you here and do this and give you that and help you with that and sponsor you for this. So I haven't experienced that since 2009. So 15 years went by, and I'm like, okay, this is happening again. This is pretty cool. And you get opportunities to speak at these different events, and like the sheriff's department wants me to train their guys, and they want everybody and their mother wants to bring me out for seminars now. And it's just like, wow, like more people want to join the gym, and people from out of town just want to take a private lesson with me. And all this stuff that hasn't happened since I was in the UFC is happening again, and on a way bigger scale. So now seeing all these opportunities, and like with social media, it's the new currency. Like the sky is the limit. Like there's people following me who you guys all watch on TV. Like I'm friends now with people who I would have never became friends with, just doing normal, just hanging out and doing jujitsu and whatever. So I don't even know what's next for me, to be honest. Like I think big things could be happening, and every week, every month, like just more opportunity comes. So, but right now, I ended up taking my relationship to the next level with the guy Kyle for people training, and we partnered up on some stuff, and he's helping me monetize all my social media stuff by selling more courses, doing the monetization programs with TikTok and YouTube. And so that's been really great. It's just been surreal, really. My wife and I, we're building a house, like basically our dream house. They got like 11 months left to do that. So that's what we're looking forward to. Our kids, we have 3 kids, 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And I get to spend a lot of time with them because my schedule is mine now. Like I don't have to really be anywhere at any time unless I set something up, or a private, or I teach twice a week. I could spend as much time with these kids as I ever wanted to. And we go on a lot of vacations, and we go on Disney cruises, and we go just whatever we feel like doing, we do. And it's just like, it's surreal. So I'm at a point now where I'm like, okay, maybe it's more about saying no than yes to some of these things so that I could continue doing what I'm doing. Because I could say yes to a few things, and then now my time is gone again. I gotta, you gotta like use your time now to be at a certain place at a certain time to have this opportunity. And you gotta be away, you gotta travel, so my focus right now, 2025, March 24th, is my family, my wife, being there for her, being there for my kids, spending as much time as I can with those 4 people, those 4 humans, my outer family, my mom, my dad, who God, thank God they're still alive and they're still healthy, and my in-laws and my brothers and sisters, just spending time with them, creating experiences, going on adventures with my family, going on adventures with my whole family, my extended families, being there for my kids, making sure that they're training jiu-jitsu, making sure that they understand jiu-jitsu and they're knowing it and they're enjoying it. Growing up in the gym, my kids literally have grown up in our gym. Like, they get picked up from school every day by our after school program. They bring my kids to me. I get to spend time with them at the gym. They hang with their friends. They train at night. You know, we're basically a jiu-jitsu family. We go home, we eat together every night. It's just amazing. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm like, what I'm thinking of nowadays, okay, yes, the opportunities are coming like rapidly, like everywhere from all angles. I'm like, okay, I could literally go on a seminar tour right now and be gone the whole year and still not hit all the schools that want to do seminars. It's incredible. It's never been like that in my whole life. And so now it's like, okay, what am I picking and choosing that is important, that's going to take me away from this life that I have? And it better be freaking good. And it better be, if it's going to be something for financial reasons, it better be a good amount of money. If it's going to be something for an experience, you know, on my own, it better be something like freaking, you know, Richard Branson inviting me on one of his ski trips or something. Like, it better be something crazy good. Otherwise, it's going to be me and my family, and we're going to be doing these things together. So once my 5-year-old gets a little older, I feel like, you know, like, I just went to Vegas for 4 days and I coached Jalen Turner in his fight. I went away from my family for that. You know, like, I really like Jalen. I wanted to do that, and I wanted to help him. So I did that. Like, so you got to, like, just pick and choose now. Like, if I said yes to everything like I used to do, I would never be home. My kids wouldn't even know, like, what I'm doing or who I am or what. They know Dad. They know I'm there every freaking second. And that's my future. And again, once they're all like, there's going to be a moment, and I don't know if you have kids, but there's going to be a time very soon, and I already feel it, that they're not going to want to hang with us much longer. They're not going to, like, I'm their world right now. Like, I'm a hero of my kids, like 13, 14, 15. And I remember going through it too. Like, that's it. They're going to want to be with their friends. And I just want to soak up every moment until that happens. And then when that happens, I can start saying yes to more things. I can start doing more things and going back out, and hopefully the opportunities are still there. So that's a long answer to a short question, but that's my focus.
Well,
That's my future for right now.
Well, all I'm gonna say, and yes, I do have kids. My kids are actually somewhat your age, but so I completely understand what you're saying, and all I'm gonna say is good for you, because many people don't know how to say no. Many people don't know how to prioritize things, and many people struggle with that, and that's why they find themselves in the positions they do. And it seems like where you found the success, now you're embracing the success, and you're being very selective about this. So
Yes.
first, I do appreciate for you saying yes to this conversation,
Yes.
and us having this chat, you know. And we've been at this for a very, very long time. So, you know, as we slowly wrapping this up, what I do want to say, you did mention Kyle, who helped you quite a bit, and
Yeah. It's been amazing. Life
where else
changing.
can everybody find you? Where else people can find you? You talked about your blueprint a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's as we wrapping this up, where's your content? Where can you be found? Anybody who's listening to this, how can they benefit from it?
So first of all, social media. It's the same handle on all 4 platforms, and it's at Matt Arroyo MMA. So MATTARROYO MMA. So if you want to go to Instagram, or TikTok or YouTube or any of those, that's where you'll find me there. If you want to check out my website where all of my courses are, if you train jiu-jitsu or you train MMA or whatever, and you want to check out my courses, then you can go to mattarroyo.com. I also have an online academy. So I teach a live online class twice a month. There's a monthly fee, and you get all my courses in that monthly fee and my live classes. That's also at mattarroyo.com. And that's about it. Like, I also do another thing I didn't mention. If you're a school owner, I teach school owners how to grow their businesses, how to grow their schools, and have like a more of like a lifestyle type design business. And I do that via a very small, intimate group where you come to Tampa, and I have a room where 10 or 15 of you, and I just show you all my systems that we use at the gym, and you take it home, plug it in, and you get similar success. And so that'll also be on mattarroyo.com. So if you want me out for a seminar, and I'm looking to go out that way on a family vacation, then that you can also do that through mattarroyo.com on the contact form. But that's it, man. Just follow me on Instagram if you love jiu-jitsu. I do a daily tip every single day, and it seems to be helping a lot of people. And that's it. And I want to thank God. I want to thank Jesus I got to give him his props. Without him, I got nothing. I thank him every single day for the life he's given me, for the kids, the wife, the gym, just everything that's going on. I owe it all to him, and I am not ashamed to admit that. And, if you're struggling, or if you feel like you don't have a purpose, or you feel like you're lost, you got to come home. You got to come home to Jesus and just say a simple prayer. God, the way I'm doing it's wrong. It's not working. Just come into my life and just test it, and he will, and your life will never be the same. And when I did that, my life was never the same. And yeah, that's all I got, man.
Well, I'll make sure that we post all the links in the show notes of this episode. So if you guys want to connect with Matt directly, feel free to do it. He's not difficult to find on social media. So if you're not following him, make sure you do follow. And Matt, once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing and being vulnerable and sharing your entire life story, because we dug into some pretty personal stuff all throughout this conversation. Thanks for putting up the technology, a little ups and downs there, but I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
We got it.
And thanks for doing everything that you do, because I think you are one of those people who does impact everybody all around. And those little things really make a difference. I think with jiu-jitsu being so complex, so broad, so deep, and so overwhelming for many, more people like you really make it easier. So I appreciate you being around. I appreciate for this conversation.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.